we're going to come to a local story that unfortunately broke on Thursday after my show was over, which is always my great fear, is that, I'll do a show Thursday morning and then something pro-life will happen Thursday afternoon, and then I'll have a full week not to talk about it. But still, this is a pretty big deal. It was a front page story in the Fresno Bee earlier this week. I'm reading this from the website of Alliance Defending Freedom, which is a nonprofit law firm that is representing some of the pro-life students from Fresno State. Their news release leads with Fresno State professor sued for erasing and censoring students' pro-life sidewalk chalk expression. Now, those of you who follow Right to Life of Central California on Facebook, and I would encourage you to do so, go to Right to Life. Just search for Right to Life of Central California on Facebook. Go to our new website, righttolifeca.org. It looks really good. It's a much better website. And you can even follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/righttolifeca. But most of you have probably seen this video. It involved a Fresno State professor going to a display that the Fresno State Students for Life had put up. It was a sidewalk chalk display. Basically, they were writing different pro-life messages and things in sidewalk chalk on sidewalks on the campus of Fresno State. The Students for Life had asked the administration, gone through all the proper channels to get approval to do this display. They were totally approved, and they wrote this display out. And what happened was this Fresno State professor comes over and starts basically rubbing out what they've written. Now, ostensibly, he said he was doing this because the Fresno State students were not in the free speech zone on campus. The professor was also apparently ignorant that Fresno State does not actually have a restrictive, quote, free speech zone anymore. They allow the whole campus to be used for free speech activities. And so the professor was basically wiping out these students' display. And unluckily for him, the Fresno State students got the whole thing on video. So why is this bad? Obviously, I mean, there's an initial visceral reaction we have of someone in power bullying those without power, and the idea of erasing students' displays just seems wrong. But why is it really wrong? Well, as a legal question, this is a big problem in public universities, specifically public universities across the country. I don't think I'm breaking any news by telling you that most universities in this country are run by people who are not pro-life. Most university professors, faculty, administration are very liberal and consequently very, very pro-choice. And what we're seeing in colleges and universities across the country is basically this attitude of intolerance for the viewpoints of conservative people. Now, if you're a private school, you can be intolerant of certain points of view. You can be intolerant of certain forms of speech. You can refuse to host certain kinds of political speech or cultural speech or opinions or whatever. Private universities don't have an obligation to follow the Constitution or to allow their students to exercise their First Amendment rights. They are private, okay? Just like you don't need to host, a political rally in your backyard if someone asks you. Private universities don't have to host certain kinds of political speech. If you're a Catholic university, for example, you both don't have to and probably shouldn't host a pro-choice rally on your main campus quad. If you're Fresno Pacific, you probably shouldn't host a pro-choice rally in the middle of campus, okay? If you're a private school, you don't have to provide an equal forum for the expression of different viewpoints, okay? But if you're a public school, it's a different situation. At a public school, you have a certain obligation to follow the Constitution in a way that a private actor doesn't, okay? If you're a public school and you provide a forum for people to speak, all right, which Fresno State does. It allows student organizations to set up shop, to have displays up, to talk to people, to have speeches, blah, blah, blah. You can't start discriminating on the basis of the content of what people say. Basically, you can't allow the pro-choice students to have their booth, to have their sidewalk display, to have their public speeches and presentations or whatever, while refusing to allow the pro-life group to do all the same things. Okay, there has to be equity. You can't be discriminating on the basis of viewpoints. Why? Because if you refuse to allow the pro-life students to speak, it's the government telling someone they can't say something based on the content of what they want to say. That is the definition of censorship. Okay, it's the government telling you that you cannot say a certain point of view. So that's really bad. Now, not every governmental entity has to allow people forums for expressing their free speech. Obviously, like a military base is not a place for you to host a pro-life rally or a pro-choice rally. It's just not the venue for it. But on college campuses, you're providing a venue for people to speak freely, to engage in free speech activities. You can't discriminate against one kind of viewpoint and allow another. So when you have a university professor, a state employee, who is actually physically going and rubbing out, silencing the speech of pro-life students, that is a serious violation of the First Amendment rights of these students.